The Olympics were never. Oh yeah. So, as I said last week, I really want the Olympics to be done, just so we can stop talking about the Olympics. But the Olympics are getting real close, and so it is now a news story everywhere. I mean, that's just the reality of it is it's going to be the news. The big story right now, and it's been like the last 3 days. So let me get this right. They decided that they would have for major events. Now they didn't specify the Olympics at the time. The major events would be capped at 10,000 people for another month. During a state of emergency, that would be brought down to 5,000 people, or half capacity. Now, none of that applies to the Olympics. So then they're having an argument now, like, so what do we do? So this is like soccer games and baseball games and stuff, which have still been going on because it was so confused. It actually showed up so many times. I have like a variety of notes about the same thing. So Suga, the prime minister, he said no spectators at the Olympics. He thinks that would be best. There's a bunch of medical experts, and they're saying no spectators at the Olympics. Then they said 10,000 or 50% capacity, whichever is lower. And then they said 20,000. And then they went back to 10,000 and said, but 20,000 at the opening ceremony. So I've seen 3 different news stories confirm the actual number of how many people can attend an Olympic event and then have it be completely different on a different news story. It's oscillating between 10,000 / 50% or 0. And it's not going to be 0. It's going to be a number. So the number they seem to have settled on is 10,000 people or 50% capacity of like the venue itself. Honestly, it should be 0. Since we're talking about the Olympics, I'm just going to do all the Olympic stuff together. I'm not even going to like do the breaks. Oh, I can do the breaks now. Transition sound. I can just do that anytime I want. This is something I'm going to play with, which is a problem, but I'm sure it'll lose its appeal pretty quickly. Something I've talked about a lot is that the Olympics, whether or not they're going to be profitable. And that's actually one of the biggest issues because they don't want to not have the Olympics because then they lose all that money. But then a story came out. It was actually by NBC. They're saying because people haven't been getting out to sporting events, and they haven't been able to do stuff, that there's going to be this like rabid desire to watch the Olympics. Sure, that's great if it happens. There's a really high demand for commercial commercial slots. So what they're saying is there's so many people going to watch the Olympics, the ad revenue is going to be so good, it's actually going to make this Olympics profitable, even if hardly anyone actually attends the actual events physically in person. There are over 7,000 hours of programming planned. If you include Ninja News Japan, 7,000 hours and 20 minutes of programming planned. They are talking about $1.25 billion in ad sales. So this is like Super Bowl stuff. They want to get their face out in front of the Olympics because it goes out in front of the whole world. So this was the numbers. I did enjoy the numbers. Comcast had the broadcast rights from 2014 to 2020, and they paid $4.4 billion, which they made up in revenue sales, like ad revenue. Then for the rights from 2021 to 2032, it was $7.75 billion or $1.3 billion a year. So these companies, they might be awful and you hate companies and whatnot. Yeah, sure. Companies are evil. We've learned that from science fiction and video games and stuff. But they don't make unsafe predictions or gamble with $7.75 billion. So if they're going to put $7.75 in, they're probably going to get $7.75 billion out. They might not make a massive profit, but they are going to profit on that. And even if they profit $125 million, which is nothing compared to the $7.75 billion, they are at least making a profit. So I'm pretty sure that what they're saying is that like this Olympics, as long as it goes ahead, is profitable. I mean, that's why it's going to go ahead. If there was a question of profitability and it was safer to not do it, I bet they wouldn't do it. I bet that actually would be the case. The participants. So we talked about the condoms. John Oliver did basically an Ninja News Japan section, would have been 2 days ago on Sunday. And it was interesting because he started talking about the condoms. I talked about the condoms a while ago. They have now changed. If his story is accurate, now here's the thing: I'm not actually taking his story as 100% accurate because I do news as it happens. So again, like I said last week, they were talking about how many spectators, and this week it's already changed. I will report that to you, where TV just does one and then like it's a one and done, and they don't ever go back and revisit and correct and stuff, because it's just getting the idea out there. He also talked about the condom makers, and he said on his show that there would be no condom distribution. Now, that's an interesting thing because the companies have already put forward the money for those condoms. So those companies got to get paid. Now, if the Olympics is as profitable as it says, the Olympics could just pay off that contract and then not give condoms to the athletes. There's two things, though. One, does not giving an athlete a condom stop them from having sex? Because the whole point is they're not supposed to be in close contact with other people worried about coronavirus. But like I said, you're talking about peak physical condition Thor. You remember when Thor was holding open that thing and the sun was shooting him and his clothes didn't come off? I did an episode on that. You should revisit that because it doesn't make any sense that he wasn't naked at the end of that. My friend Juan said it's because it's magic clothes, but then if you have magic clothes, then he doesn't need to stand there, just use magic. Magic is problematic because it can just be used to solve any problem. So I don't like magic as a solution. Thor should have been naked, standing there, his willy flapping in the wind as the sun blew past his sun-dappled pectorals. I kind of lost my train of thought just now. Okay, so you got Thor, and then you got like the female alternative. So I guess the theme, it would be Wonder Woman, I guess, is the one. And then so you have the Olympiads. You have Thor stands at one end of the hallway, and then the Wonder Woman standing at the other end of the hallway. And they see each other, and they lock gazes, and they know they are both pinnacles of physicality. Do you think they're not going to bone down? Do you think that, we haven't given them a condom, they're going to be responsible? Thor thinks his pullout game is on point. Thor thinks that that's his Olympic event. I've now just gone off on a train that I had not planned. I'm kind of excited to see where this train goes. Wonder Woman, I mean, if I saw Thor, I'd take that chance. I'm sorry, I'm just being honest. If I was Wonder Woman and I saw Thor standing in a towel at the end of the hallway, I'd be like, I'm going to give that a shot. I'm going to try. And then maybe I'm betting mentally. I bet Thor's pullout game is pretty good. So they're not going to distribute the condoms. That's not going to stop people banging. They're actually just raising the risk. So this has nothing to do with coronavirus. That's the thing they're missing. You're not going to stop them from doing the bone and down. So the close contact's going to happen anyways. Why not just make it safe? Participants can bring alcohol to the Olympic Village to consume in their rooms alone. What a sad thing. But here's again the reality. Alcohol lowers your inhibition. So Thor is in his room drinking alone. He's thinking, I just want a gold medal for sexiness. And he goes out in the hallway in a silk robe that's open. He's wearing boxer shorts, but they're snug. They're sort of boxer briefs. And then he looks down the hallway, he sees Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman's just come out of the shower. She's wearing a towel that's surprisingly tight, almost as if it's clipped at the back to show her curves. And they lock eyes. His inhibitions are lower than they were. Maybe 5 drinks ago, he wouldn't have made the proposition going, no, this is immoral. We should be married first. But then he sees her and he goes, I mean, if I was going to mistakenly breed with anybody, Wonder Woman's it. And then Wonder Woman looks at him and goes, there's some boxer briefs right there. I hope Wonder Woman's voice isn't like that. They've never shown, I only watched the movies, they never had her do a sexy voice. I guess her voice is supposed to be sexy all the time. I've gotten way off track. I'm just thinking about Thor and Wonder Woman having sex without a condom in the Olympic Village. It's hot. And those times are past for me. Maybe that's why my brain is locked onto this so desperately. That time in my life is over. I'm trying to just lose belly fat at this point. I'm not going to look like Thor. We'd need to transplant a lot to make that happen. Our last bit of Olympic news. I hope. I hope. I got some other stories that are more fun. This is actually quite sad. 9 athletes from Uganda arrived in Japan, and they'd go, of course, through a corona check when they get to the airport. And one of them actually has coronavirus. That person's been separated. They didn't say if it was an athlete. So a friend of mine told me he read a story that it was a coach. Like, I'm not taking that as face value, but yeah, they don't actually specify who or what they were, like, because they said boxing, swimming, and something else. Those guys that arrived, that person has been taken to a government facility, and the others are just moving on. But of course, they're going to be checked thoroughly, especially since they are close contact. Man, that's got to suck, because I assume they weren't showing any symptoms when they left. And they're probably still not showing any symptoms. The thing I think about, like, Olympic athletes getting coronavirus, I bet their bodies are so strong that if it shows up way later. I don't know. Maybe it devastates them more once it gets a hold. There's been a plan set out to vaccinate teens and kids over the summer vacation. And a lot of people got pissed off. I'm looking at this like, how are they thinking about it? Do I agree with that thinking? They said in Shibuya, they were going to jump down, skip all the 30, 40, 50-year-olds and do the 20 to early 30-year-olds because they were the ones going out in Shibuya drinking and spreading the coronavirus. So we vaccinate them. We're actually stopping the spreaders. And then we can get to the people who aren't going out, who are following the rules, who are actually being safer anyway. I thought, yeah, that's pretty fair. That's not the whole country. That's only Shibuya. Some news stories presented that as being universal. It was actually only one area where there is a lot of partying going on. The plan to vaccinate teens and kids, though, a lot of people were upset. Now, you have the initial group were anti-vaxxers. So they're just against anyone getting vaccinated, and they're seeing this as an excuse. They started issuing death threats. The concern, though, this is an interesting aspect of Japan. The concern with vaccination in Japan is primarily long-term effects. So when you vaccinate, I actually said this, 2 months ago or something. When you talk about vaccinating older people, the chances of long-term effects are minimal because they don't have long-term left to live. And I kind of fall into that category. If there was a long-term effect after I got vaccinated, it hasn't happened yet. The amount of damage it would do to my whole life is minimal. They worry about kids, though. Kids have so much life ahead of them that if there are long-term effects that we're not going to know about because we've created this vaccine over the last year. It's been tested, yes, but is it long-term safe? We don't know. That's actually where the anti-vaccination stance comes from. And that comes from bad vaccinations in the past that actually did have long-term effects that actually, ruined a lot of people's lives. So there's a valid basis there to be worried or scared or nervous, which I understand. I still don't agree with it, but I do actually understand it. Anti-vaxxing in America, microchips and shit and making you a magnet and stuff, I'm sorry, that's just not even based on anything. So there were death threats, long-term side effects. And then the argument I sort of disagreed with the most was the parents are worried about discrimination for the non-vaccinated children. So basically they're saying, like, what if they vaccinate all the kids and I don't vaccinate my kids? And then they go to school and they get bullied by all these vaccinated bullies. Pretty simple solution to that is actually just get your kid vaccinated. If there's the opportunity to have my children vaccinated, I am going to do it. If there's an opportunity to have myself vaccinated, I am going to do it. I am very pro-science and pro-vaccine. I mean, yeah, there is a risk of side effects, but there's a risk of side effects for everything. So I've been taking medicine, as I said at the beginning of the stream. I've been taking medicine since February. I'm basically just getting off it now. Are there long-term side effects? We'll find out in 10 years, but I would rather just do it. Like, I trust them, I guess. I trust scientists. I don't trust governments. I trust scientists, though. I also don't trust big media. So I don't trust John Oliver's story about the condoms 100%. If you're watching on stream, I look suspicious. If you're listening to the podcast, I look suspicious. Japan Medical Association chief. He's one of the guys who got death threats. Not 100%. Yes, it is. It is. It's related to the previous story in a way. He got an envelope, and in the envelope was a letter, and that letter said, "You are inciting fear over coronavirus. I'll kill you." And it also included a knife, which, free knife. This was a hospital in Sapporo where the guy works. Now, I was my first thought was, You're going to kill me. Are you asking me to hold on to the knife so that you can get here and then pick it up and then kill me with it? Is this the knife you're going to kill me with? Because if it is, you've made a big mistake. Because you've just sent me your murder knife. Otherwise, yeah, I have your knife. So at least it's a fair fight. If he's going to kill me with a knife and he sent me a knife, he's actually made it at least a level playing field. This is the part that I actually got freaked out by. Because I was like, dude has a pattern. This is his second arrest. The guy who sent the letter for the same crime. So on May 28th, he sent the same sort of letter to the Tokyo Metro Medical Association chief. If you do not withdraw from the coronavirus matter, I'll definitely kill you. And it had another knife in it. And I was like, I hope that letter included, please return my knife. I have another letter to send. Or something like that. Like this is where it got like, either this dude has a multitude of knives, in which case sending them to other people is probably a good idea because then everyone has a knife. This is like the good guy with a knife. The only guy who can stop a bad guy with a knife is a good guy with a knife. And this guy's providing the knives for everybody. He's the bad guy. And he's like, yes, I agree. The only way you can stop me is if you have a knife. So I'm going to give you a knife. I'm going to threaten to kill you. I'm going to bring my knife. I'm going to come there. I'm going to try to kill you, but you have a knife too. So at least it's a fair game. So, respect for at least making it a level playing field. How much does it cost to send a knife? It just seems like this is an impractical idea. But how many times do you need to get arrested for sending a knife and a death threat through the mail before they kind of say your knife rights have been taken away? 2 weeks ago, crossbow laws came into effect. Knives are actually already controlled. I talked about that before. So I guess, can they take away your right to use a knife in Japan? Because I bet they kind of can. I guess just if you get caught anywhere with a knife. That's it. You're done. You got knife time. The law concerning the promotion of business activities related to the exploration and development of space resources has been passed. The big question is, what does that mean? Japan allows itself to prospect and use, not material, resources. Jesus Christ. You can tell I'm pushing myself to do this early because my brain is just not up to speed yet. It even says resources in the rule, the law concerning the promotion of business activities related to the exploration and development of space resources. So this allows companies to go to space and take resources from, let's say, an asteroid and use it in space or bring it back to Earth and use it on Earth. Private companies have to get permission from the Japanese government. This was interesting because I assume they mean Japanese companies. Like JAXA is the Japanese space agency. It doesn't actually say that. It says companies, private companies. So that does imply all companies. There are a bunch of countries that have signed different accords to talk about space resources. Russia seems pretty pissed about it. They have been going like, we didn't agree to this. And I'm like, because now what they're really talking about is divvying up space. How do you divvy up space? And Russia's not up there right now. Like, I think China and India have more stuff in space than Russia does at the moment. So Russia's like, well, if you guys all start dividing stuff up, like India might have more stuff than us, and that's not cool. So Russia needs to sort of get on its game. They're kind of losing the program at the moment. Putin's got to turn this franchise around. And space is it. So they've already started making laws in Japan about whether or not you can exploit resources in space. I'm waiting to see what happens. Like, when is it going to happen? Who's going to do it first? What's going to happen? Because if it's a Japanese company, it's going to be pretty open. They're going to talk about it. Other countries, they might try to keep it secret. But I'm interested in what they actually go for first. Are they going to go for asteroids? Are they going to go mine the moon or something? I don't know what's on the moon. Maybe that's it. They'll go find out what's on the moon and then see if it's worth destroying and bringing back to Earth. This is the beginning of a dystopian movie where the moon is a different shape, or it's got that cracked where it's all the pieces are flying out. Very sci-fi movie headspace right now. It was all that Thor, Wonder Woman sex talk earlier. If you are going to be a spectator at the Olympics, you have to wear a mask, and I'm not even going to talk about it. That'll just be for the stream. And they want you to cheer quietly. They want you to clap hands. They don't want you. Loudly cheering is prohibited. So I'm thinking they're going to have people walk around and go like, shh. They're going to be shushing you. And so you can clap. Japan's really big on noisemakers and stuff like they have at baseball games. So it'd probably just be a bunch of that. I could actually see them not making any noise with their mouth. Just oohs and ahs. And then like having clappers and things like that. If you own a company that makes cheap plastic noisemakers, get it to Japan right now. That actually might be the next big thing that takes off for the next 2 months. This is an in and out, though. This is not like a lifetime thing. You just want to make your money in the next 3 months and then get out as quick as you can. This is just crime. This is where we get more into sort of my wheelhouse. It was actually why I started in News Japan. 3 crimes, all equally ridiculous. There was a 30-hour standoff at an internet cafe. At 4:10 p.m. in the afternoon, the staff called the police because a staff member had visited a private booth. So an internet cafe, it usually has like a couch and a computer, and people go there. Like there's people who technically live in those things. They can't afford an apartment or something. It's actually cheaper, and it has showers and stuff. You can say that people sleep there. That's actually really normal. You don't get a bed, but you do get a couch. So that's enough. They'll bring you snacks and food and stuff. It's private. So actually pretty good. But then 2 hours later, so 2 hours earlier, the staff member had gone up and not returned. So the other staff called the police. And then the police showed up, and they have little intercoms to talk to people in the rooms. And they said, hey, what's going on, buddy? And homeboy says, I've got a knife. Back off, or I'm going to die with this woman. So he's holding the woman hostage. This is pretty serious. Now, they went up, of course, tried to get in the room, but he'd broken the lock somehow, so the master key didn't work anymore. And this is a very Japanese way of handling it. They just do a standoff. They just wait. So they wait. They send some food and water. It's the little things I always really want to know about that I never going to find out about. What did they send them? What food? Like, was it pizza? Pizza's like a standard in movies, but is that what they send them? Is that what they send you when you're doing a standoff? Like, what do you get? Like, ramen? Do you get a bento from the convenience store? That's what I want to know. Okay, so they sent some food and water. Water. I mean, if you're going to go to jail, you might as well get something better than water. And then it's 30 hours. So 8 p.m. the next day, he stops answering the intercom because he fell asleep. And that's when the police were able to break in and arrest the guy. So here's, again, a problem, very common problem with criminals and criminal activities. I've said it many, many times. Exit strategy is actually probably the most important part of the plan, guys. So you got to have a plan on how to get out of this. So he locked himself in a room with a woman. They didn't actually say if anything happened with the woman. They didn't imply that she was hurt, but of course I'm hoping she wasn't. But it sounds like they just sat there for 30 hours. He fell asleep. Then the police kicked in the door and arrested him. Was that his plan? So we would actually need something leading up to the plan to figure out what was going on. We would need to know the why and wherefore of his plan, or if this was just like a spur of the moment. Maybe the girl came in to deliver the food that he had ordered or something, and he's just like, I'm going to keep you. Not a good plan. This is odd. A man got friendly with a high school girl on social media. That in itself is already the weird part to me. Like, if I am on social media and I talk to a high school girl, I would assume she doesn't want to talk to me. I don't know how old this guy is. He's probably not as old as me. Yeah, so they have some kind of relationship, like not purely on the internet. So I don't know what happened or if it got dirty or anything. She decides she wants to run away. And then she suggests, hey, why don't I run away and stay at your place? And this guy, being a Japanese man and having grown up with Japanese society with very specific proclivities, was like, yeah, that's a good idea. But it's not. And he's a lawyer, so he should have known that. So the girl disappears. Girl's parents call the police. The police track her down, and he gets arrested. Now, he's getting arrested for kidnapping. But you might actually... So this is sort of the argument. A lot of people are arguing it's not kidnapping because she suggested it. She showed up at his house, and he just basically was passively agreed to this situation. So the police showed up. She hadn't been hurt. They didn't say whether she'd been touched or not. But again, we're going to assume not. right for now. Let's just give everyone the benefit of the doubt that she literally just went and stayed at his place for a while, and then they ate food, and she just hung out, and she kind of like tried to get her life mentally back together. Let's even say it was a positive thing. Let's go take it that far. Still harboring someone who's run away from home is technically kidnapping, because he facilitated the girl disappearing from her family. He didn't call the family. The family didn't know where she was. That's why they called the police. That's kidnapping. It's inadvertent, I think, but I think he probably will get more leniency and a lighter sentence if he gets sentenced at all. But he is being charged and is guilty of kidnapping. So if you are talking to someone online and they're young and they say, I want to run away from home and stay at your place, think about it, because you might be actually kidnapping that person by accident. Honestly, if you're an adult, don't talk to high school kids on the internet. That's just creepy. Ninja News Japan. Lesson of the day. If you're old, don't talk to high school kids on the internet. It's just trouble. The experts. So I'm really, really happy about them. In Japan, experts are saying we should have a 4-day work week. This will improve work-life balance, and people can help more with home care, and women can sort of take care of their family, and men can start helping out. And it's not going to happen. This is actually one of those things, like experts say something, but then they don't do anything. What is the point of having the experts say that thing in the first place? We should have 4-day work weeks. It would really sort of rebalance all of society. That would be great. I actually think that's lovely. I would love a 4-day work week. I would love to spend more time doing this, more time with my family, just hanging out and stuff. Absolutely. More time with Dave. Yeah, just watch me record. There's Dave just he's my producer, my director. He just makes sure everything goes well. You don't actually have to go that far. They could just try to improve the work-life balance of Japanese work as it is in the moment. Like, you could have people go home when their shifts end. That's actually the biggest problem is in Japan, culturally, you do not go home until after the boss goes home, which is dumb because maybe the boss is staying late because they have to do something, and then you feel like you have to stay late. It means no one goes home. So basically, people just don't go home from work. And then you don't want to be the first one to leave, so no one leaves. And it's all just like this culture of politeness and the culture of trying to do the right thing and not be a burden to your coworkers and whatnot. I mean, those are all lovely sentiments, but if it means you don't have a home life, that's not cool anymore. So just don't do that. There's an example, though. So Yahoo Japan, and this is, again, why it's not working. Yahoo Japan, which is still actually a big company in Japan. If you meet Japanese people, they're actually very likely to have a Yahoo email address, not a Gmail. Maybe young people it's changed, but anyone like 30 or over, Yahoo's actually still bigger than Google in Japan specifically. They have 7,000 employees in Japan. They offered up 4-day work weeks, and 100 took the 4-day work week option. I would actually, I'm again just guessing. I don't have any facts or figures to back this up. I would guess it's actually mostly mothers and stuff who just need to take care of their families. So, yeah, I appreciate the idea, the experts saying what they think would make the world a better place. I do that all the time, but since I don't have an impact on society, it's not going to happen, and that's unfortunately the reality. It's a weird one, so it showed up a bunch of times in a bunch of different news places. A 55-year-old dude broke into a high school at night, stole a high school girl's uniform, put it on, and started walking around the hallways. Now, we don't know what he was doing in the hallways. Like, I've seen some websites, because they're not news organizations. Websites talk about like, oh, he was prancing around, dancing around the hallways. We don't know. Walking around, pretending they were in a high school drama, pretending they're back in high school and a woman. Lots of stuff was going on there mentally that was not, we don't know. Went to the bathroom, the men's bathroom. So still identified as a male. Wearing a girl's uniform, but going to the male bathroom. When they went into the bathroom, there was another man who was just identified as being in his 30s who restrained the guy who broke into the high school and was wearing the sailor uniform, called the cops. And this is at 2 o'clock in the morning. And no one says who this other guy is. There are so many questions. So there's the questions about breaking into high school and wearing the uniform and running around. I actually do, again, I want to know what the end of that plan was. Was he going to put the uniform back? Was he just going to run away with it? Was he just go home? What's going on? That's actually an interesting question to me. This other guy, what's he doing there? Now, every place I read pointed out that this guy was confident enough to call the police. So almost like it's acceptable that he was there. So so it could have been a guard. They actually do have like night watch people. Could have been a teacher working late. Could have been a custodian of some sort. 2 a.m. is a bit weird for that, but it is possible. But they clearly in some way were connected to the high school in enough that they weren't concerned about getting arrested for being there. But this is what everyone's saying is, if that's the case, why not just identify them? But maybe, again, it's like a teacher or something who maybe wasn't supposed to be there but wasn't doing anything wrong. Or, yeah, like a teacher had fallen asleep at their desk and then woke up, went to the bathroom, and then like there's someone else there and like, holy, this is not the way it's supposed to be. So there are answers to that question that they haven't put out. They've actually set the internet aflame with questions, which is sort of the internet I like the best. But who is this guy? Our night hero, our Dark Knight, the Batman. And then we would have to give the other person some kind of Batman Rogues Gallery name, like Sailor Skirt Man. Honestly, not worth getting. It's never worth getting arrested for these crimes. All the ones I talk about is basically just like, why would you even get arrested for that? It's so dumb. Because I guess I don't live in that headspace. Because to me, I'd be like, well, just buy a uniform online, wear it at home, and you don't get in trouble. I know you get, it's not, but then it must be the being in the high school. It must be wearing someone else's uniform. It must be doing all that makes it worthwhile. That's the part I don't understand. Because that's the part that I don't feel is worth getting arrested over. Yeah, don't get arrested for breaking into high schools and wearing girls' uniforms by someone who apparently is supposed to be there, but we don't know why.
Leave a text or voice question or comment at voicelink.fm/velocipodcast. Click the link in the show description. You can tweet questions or comments at Ninja News Japan or join the Facebook group. On Facebook, search for Ninja News Japan. Sexy out.
Oh, it cut off the homies for some reason. Oh, that's really sad. Sexy Out Homies was kind of my favorite part of the robot voice. I have to check. Maybe that's an old recording I messed with or something. If you are going to be a spectator,